The labor market is broken, and most people don't realize that the rules have changed. I'm Alex, and this is Hammer Strikes. Have you ever noticed that every salary increase you get, all of the prices around you also seem to go up? It doesn't really seem to matter how hard you work or what your title is. Now all of a sudden there are juniors who are applying to mid-level roles so that way they can afford the cost of living. And mid-level people who are applying to senior roles. The requirements seem to get higher and higher. And your leverage seems to continue to go down and down. Meanwhile, the person who owns the system, or the group of people, they're winning somehow. That's not because they're malicious or evil. It's because the entire incentive structure has changed. And this happened over a very long period of time, okay? Post-World War II, the deal was quite simple. You would work, and then you would be entitled to a pension. Your salary would increase with the productivity of the company, with the assets that they built, loosely, albeit. Work hard, get paid, live well. That was very much how things were post-World War II in America. Over time, though, we've had technological shifts, supply chain shifts. What's happened is companies have gone more and more public, more and more partitioned. If you're a stockholder in any company, you own a piece of that company. That also means that you have a say and that you have an incentive for that company to do well. The more voices, the more demands. The more demands, the more there will be pressure to increase prices, reduce labor costs, okay, push for buybacks, consolidation, things like that. Eventually, everything kind of started to shift more into the financialization space. We were no longer focused on productivity and building things as a country. Instead, we became focused on asset valuation. How can we extract the most wealth possible? How can we say our product has more value, etc.? That needle kept on moving and moving and moving until things broke probably around the early 2000s. Now that, in conjunction with some other things, right? Take a look at the housing market. Okay, I point at the housing market a lot, but it's a great example. We didn't exactly invent debt, but in the early 1900s, you used to buy a home with like a 50% down payment. It was relatively difficult to be approved for a loan, and, you know, buying a house was quite difficult. Great Depression hits, nobody can afford houses. You know, it's a horrible time in our history. So the government comes up with the FHA and Fannie Mae. That makes the 30-year conventional loan a thing. Now common people can actually get cheap money. They can buy houses. Great. This wasn't just housing, but it was everywhere. The loans became cheaper, so people got the chance to borrow more. The credit card became a thing, the internet became a thing, costs just kept going up, and debt became a natural part of the lifestyle that people pursued. And then you contrast that with salaries going up and then the price of everything going up in conjunction. It's safe to say that the purchasing power for the average family has gone down pretty significantly, and that wealth consolidation has occurred pretty much across the board. Americans have felt this shift for a long time, and nobody can quite put their finger on it. I think that this is the craziest part, okay? Ownership clearly is the thing that's being rewarded right now. Labor is not being rewarded. Renting out your skills is not being rewarded. Actually owning things is what's being rewarded. And people feel this, okay? Look, there's more people now than ever that are participating in gig economy. Okay, Pew Research estimates that 36% of working adults in the United States are participating in a gig economy. That means that 36% of people are trying to pursue some other form of labor contract where they have more ownership of what they're outputting. Whether that's part-time or not, that's something that's worth considering. Upwork also estimates that on a per annum basis, $1 trillion worth of the economy that fluctuates comes from freelancing. $1 trillion. That's not nothing. That's extremely significant. So people are already feeling this. Okay, people are already looking for alternatives in the labor contract because the current system that we have in place isn't working anymore. To me, this pretty much leads to one solution. Basically, the labor force needs to assert their leverage within the labor contract by changing the deal. And one way that you can do that is by setting up an LLC. Okay, think about it. A limited liability corporation. You only need one person to spin it up. It takes $200 and a board Saturday. Then all of a sudden, kablam, you own a business now. That's it. Okay, so if you spin up your own LLC, then instead of renting your labor, then you can actually charge for it with a contract in a B2B relationship. Okay, so if you're an engineer or a doctor or a paralegal or what have you, if you own your own LLC, you can approach an employer and say, hey, I work strictly in B2B relationships under my LLC. And that will actually allow you to facilitate a contract that allows you to extract more of your value instead of having it taken from you. Okay, think about engineers. Engineers, they can save their company hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars per year, and they have a proven track record of doing this. Imagine if you could, instead of soliciting as a laborer, solicit as a business and extract more of those cost savings. That's pretty much what everybody should be going into. You know, let me be conservative. Let's just have a little bit of fun with this. 36% participating in gig economy. Imagine tomorrow, 1/3 of all the workers spin up their own LLCs, go to their employers and demand B2B relationships. What would happen? Well, it would probably crash the economy. But no, I think I think that if a small percentage of people started to do this, what would happen would be very interesting, okay? Companies would then have to compete with the reality that people can just own themselves. That's really powerful. Okay? Like, incredibly powerful. People on Etsy know this. Maybe some indie software developers know this. Content creators know this. Owning wins. If you own your output, then you can sell it for what you want to sell it for, instead of having to accept what somebody else tells you you're worth. Owning wins. I think that the economy is going to shift in this direction. I truly believe this. I believe that now with AI, with the cheapness of being able to actually start up your own business, with the completely broken incentivization structure that we have in our labor market, that people are going to naturally transition into trying to own more of their output. Because that's what's rewarded right now. Okay, why settle for having the concentration of wealth and asset valuation pressures define what the economy is? Laborers used to have a lot more say over their compensation stack. All this would do is basically revert the system back towards a more decentralized model, where you would have a significant chunk of the population who owns significantly more of their output. This is why I'm building things like Strata BI at my company. If the economy is going to transition into this direction, we're going to need some underlying infrastructure that allows individuals to be able to own more of their own output. This is important. If you spin up your own LLC, you get to be a node in the economy. You have more leverage when you negotiate. And you get to own more of your output. If you're even moderately successful in your endeavors, it's life-changing money. Now, not everybody can do this. Not everybody has the capability of spinning up their own thing and trying to go it alone. People do have some reliance on their income. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow. All I'm saying is you need to start looking at your life and figuring out how you can own something, even if it's small. I'm Alex, and this is Hammer Strikes. Go build something.